Hi everyone, I wish you a very happy new year. So in 2023, I reviewed a lot of devices. Most of them were phones. But to be honest, it is getting a little bit boring because most of the upgrades are incremental. And even in 2024, you're going to see most of the software and AI features more than hardware upgrades. So I decided to get myself something new. I researched a lot before getting my first handheld. So there was one game in particular I wanted to play no matter what because that's one game I play on my Xbox every single day. And whenever I visit my hometown or I travel anywhere, I miss that game because I play with my friends. And that is Halo Infinite. So I wanted to get a handheld that can play that. So I only had three options: Steam Deck, OLED, the Asus ROG Ally, and the Legion Go. In India, you don't officially get the Steam Deck OLED or Legion Go, so this was the one option. And even if I had those options, I would still pick this one. Yes, I know the Steam Deck will give you a better software experience when it comes to gaming, but on ROG you get the full Windows experience, so you can use it as a PC if you want, but you can get a lot of apps or games that you can only run on Windows. So in the box, you can get the 65 watt charger, which I think is a little big. So you can use any 65 watt charger. I also use my Belkin one. And you also get this cardboard sort of stand. So you can just use it like this. So I think this is a way if you want to play with your controller or you want to use a keyboard or mouse. This is a good way to stand it. So I'm glad that ROG put it because it doesn't have its stand on its own. If I talk about the design, I think it's really light. If I compare it with the Steam Deck, I never touched the Legion Go, but I'm sure because of that 8.8 screen that is going to be really heavy. So I think this is a really good size. I wish there was a black color. I'm not sure how this white one is going to held for a long time, but it looks really good. I like the back panel as well. There are two switches like this. I never use them on my Elite controller as well, so I'm not using it here as well. But you can assign them according to you. Um, if I talk about the ports, you get the USB-C port, eGPU part. I mean, if you're going to purchase the separate eGPU, I'm not going to use that. SD card slot, I'm not using that because I've heard a lot of rumors that it might burn the SD card if I'm using it on the higher power, and I'm using it plugged in most of the time, so I'm not going to do that. You get your volume rockers, and there's a power button which also works as a fingerprint sensor. So let me just lock and try to unlock. It works really well, so that's also good. So this is a proper full-fledged Windows system. So before talking about the gameplay, let's talk about the window itself. Yes, a lot of people complained about that. It's a bit annoying, which I agree because it doesn't always work because I get confused when I'm using the controller on the Windows with the touch and it's really small. But it works for me because after a point, you're just going to open this game center. This is called the some sort of crate. Let me just read the name. So yeah, Armory crate, that is you are going to use because it will have all the apps and the games you want, and you can run it on startup. So if you don't want to do anything else on your Windows, you're good to go. That works perfectly fine. The only time I faced some issue when I was connected to the HDMI port on a monitor, but I will talk about that later. But before talking about the games itself, you need to update everything like it's a Windows. So on start, you will get some updates. It will take half an hour, and then you will go into update center. You're going to upgrade every of these things, the app and something related to it. That is going to take half an hour. And then after that, you need to go to my Asus and upgrade the driver. So there is a tutorial on the Asus ROG YouTube page itself that you need to follow. It will take 1.5 hours and then you are good to go. Then you are just going to go in your Armory crate. Let me just do back and go to game library. You will find the Xbox and Steam already there. You also get the 3 month Xbox Ultimate Game Pass, so you can download any game you want. But for me, the Halo Infinite was free, so I was going to install it, and that was the first game I installed. And apart from that, there are other games that I used as well. The slight problem you might face when you're going to install a lot of game, because the maximum storage you can get on this is 512 GB, and like I talked about the SD card, it might burn. So other option you have is going to like upgrade your SSD, so you can put a normal SSD behind your Asus. I mean, there are a lot of tutorials. I will do that later if I need it, but I don't play a lot of games, so I think this is going to be fine for me. But I know for a lot of people who are going to play AAA titles, the storage might not be enough. And there are a lot of settings that you want to set, like if you want to calibrate something. And for me, I actually turn off the RGB lighting, which is this, because the brightness was too much for the night, and you can like just go from 0 to 33%. So I just turned it off. but they are actually nice. They're cool. So when you open them, this is nice. I also turned off the vibration motor because I don't like the vibration when I'm playing the first person shooter game. So those all of the things that you can do in the setting. I also changed some setting with the gamepad itself, so I'll explain like why I did that when I'm going to talk about the gameplay. But there is a huge issue with the Asus ROG that I think I've watched a lot of videos, and that was the dead zone. Even with the 0%, the trigger were not working perfectly fine. But after the update, we got the anti dead zone, and that works really well. I'm putting that on 15%. I'll show you like how that works, but this works for me. So if you face like if you're moving your triggers a little bit and they're not doing anything, you need to increase your anti dead zone to make them like work according to you, like if you are playing with a controller. So this will work for you. Now let's open an actual game, and for my case I'm going to use the Halo Infinite because that's the game I use. Before that, I can also tell you about like this one is for the Armory Crate, and this one is going to be all the settings that you're going to use. I'm using on a turbo mode right now, that is 25 watt. I will talk about that later when I talk about the battery. But apart from that, you have some mode if you want, and you can put the resolution to 1080p and 120 frames per second, and you can change the resolution inside the game accordingly, because outside the 1080p 120 hertz work on every mode perfectly fine, but with game it might not work the way you want to. So let me show you an example of this. So right now I'm not plugged into any outlet, so I'm using the 25 watt. And let me just turn on the real-time monitor, so you can get into three form in the smaller one. You can increase into a row one, and you can also use this where you can see all the information about it, and you can just turn it on from here. And after that, let me just start a gameplay. So right now I've put the resolution down. Let me also show you that. So in the settings, I've gone down to the resolution. Let me see if you can see it. You can play it on full HD, but you need to reduce the frame rate. I also want to talk about the speaker. The speakers are really good. But let me show you. As you can see, I've put the frame rate to 60, and most of the time I get the 60 frames per second. But let me show you the gameplay. I'm in the training mode right now. Let me reduce the sound a little bit. I think the gameplay is really good. So as you can see, I can just constantly getting around 50 to 60 frames per second, and this is on 720p. So if I'm using the power outlet on 30 mode, I can actually get around 60 frames per second on 1080p, and I can actually get up to 90 frames per second if I'm plugged into power outlet and I'm using the 30 watt power. But if I talk about if I go to the lower mode, sometimes you face this issue with the trigger. It will automatically going to be triggering. You can go in this, change the control mode to desktop mode, and it works on gamepad, and it works perfectly fine. So that's one issue that I found with my Halo Infinite game. Yeah, as you can see, after I reduced it, and it the gameplay went down to 30 frames per second when I'm on the 10 watt mode. So I think for these games you need to have that like 25 mode at least to get a good gameplay. To be honest, I was really impressed with the gaming performance on this one. The only issue I faced was the dead zone, but after changing the anti-dead zone, I did not face that issue as well. Let me just exit this game, otherwise. Oh, by the way, the sound, let me just show you. It's on 75. The speakers are really good, so you're gonna enjoy that. So overall, I've been really impressed with this Asus ROG Ally, but the one biggest problem with this is going to be the battery life. So if you're going to use it on this 25 mode, watt mode on the battery, this is just going to last for like 1 hour or 1.5 hour, because the total battery is 40 watts. So like just 25 watt per hour, you can see like this is going to be like just above 1 hour. You can also play out on the silent mode, but you won't get the best graphic, and you cannot play AAA games, so you can just play lighter games. So some games, like let's suppose if I'm playing on 15 watt and playing game like this Spiritfarer. This works really good and it works on 60 frames per second very easily. It has really good graphics, but if you want to play like first person shooter sort of games, you need to have that more power. So I think the best option is to like keep it plugged in. I really like the speakers on there. If I just talk about the brightness and the graphics, they're like really good. And this experience is really good. Now I'm using the 25 mode. Let me just go to 15 watt. Even with 15 watt, a game like this works really well. And my partner plays this game a lot, so I think for her this is a really good handheld device, and this can last around 2.5 hours on this game, which I think is pretty decent if you're even traveling, and if you have a power bank you can just charge it again. But yeah, you need to keep that in mind. This is not going to last you for a long time if you're playing the AAA games. There is one another issue that I faced when I connected my controller to the TV. So I feel like the input lag is a little bit more than usual when I play using my Xbox itself. So the gameplay was not really good. Yes, I am expecting a lot, but it's good to have a system that you can actually plug and play. But I think the first play shooter games are not really a viable option when you want to connect this ASUS ROG Ally to the TV and want to play via controller. I mean, the input lag is really bad. But apart from that, if you want to play a game with a campaign or storytelling, I think that can still work out for you. So in my opinion, this is the best handheld you can get right now if you're okay with the mediocre battery life. I mean, it's like you can play for 1 and 1.5 hour and then put it on charge and like take a break, then it's fine. Or if you're going to travel, you can get a power bank like that is going to give you the sufficient power for this. Apart from that, I think the Steam Deck OLED will be a better option if you want to play light games and you want more battery life out of a handheld. I wouldn't recommend Legion Go because of its size and heaviness. Yes, I know the bigger display will be much better, but I think this that one is going to be a little bit more difficult to play on. So in my opinion, I think this is still the best handheld you can get right now. Let me know if you have any questions regarding the Ally. And if you have some tips for me to improve the input lag on my HDMI on TV, that will be really helpful. If you really enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. My name is Rohit. I'll see you next one. Till then.